Hey, welcome back if you are a subscriber. If you're new here, my name's Liz and I'm just here to document my life experiences. In this particular series, I'm doing my weekly life lessons where I share with you life lessons that I've experienced throughout the week in hopes of opening a bit of a dialogue where you can share your life lesson of the week as well. We all grow when we're sharing those experiences together. That's sort of the spirit of this series. So, this week's life lesson was inspired by my running group, and it sort of goes along with this quote by Mel Robbins where we don't allow our mood to dictate our actions. I'd heard that quote quite some time ago, and I had the opportunity to sort of live out that quote this week. And I wanted to share that, see if anyone else had had a similar experience. It also sort of works in hand with another life lesson, but I think they're related. So I'm unpacking them together. This lesson that I've learned around self sabotage masquerading as self care, that what we think is self care is actually sabotaging ourselves. The other day, it was a typical Tuesday afternoon. Every Tuesday, I join my running group where we do intervals together. Intervals are hard, they're unpleasant, and the idea is that we get together and we suffer together, and it's a bit more fun that way. It almost feels like we get through it a little bit quicker. And it was just another Tuesday. I knew I had intervals. I had a long day at work. It was just one of those days where just things just didn't quite go to plan. Things just felt a little harder than they needed to be. And just me personally, I was just in a bit of a crappy mood, really. And there was just several things at play that were sort of impacting on my mood, but mostly me, mostly my own stuff. And I'd gotten to the end of the day and I started like telling myself that maybe it was self care if I just had an easier day today. Maybe I do intervals, but I do my own intervals and I just go a bit gentle and a bit more steady. And maybe I don't do it. And I think the difference between authentic self care and manufactured self care is authentic self care, when you make the decision, well, this is my experience anyway, is when we make a self care decision that is a healthy one, it almost feels peaceful and settling. Like there's high anxiety until you make the decision, then you make it and you settle down. You just go, okay. This time, though, and this was a way that I could see that maybe it wasn't the healthy decision, is that when I said to myself, I'll have an easier day today, I didn't feel good about it. I felt uncomfortable about it. I felt disappointed. I feel like I was letting myself down a little bit. And the thing is, it's okay to rest. It is okay to rest. But what isn't okay for me personally is using that as an excuse to give myself the easy road out, give myself the easy way out. And the only way my life has changed up until this point is by refusing to do that, by not taking the easy road. My life got infinitely worse during that period of my life where I was just taking the easy road all the time, doing what was easier, doing what felt easier in the moment rather than something that's hard in the moment that may create ease in my life later. And I'd realized in that moment, I think that's what was going on. I was just allowing my mood to dictate my feelings, allowing my mood to take control over what I was going to do that afternoon. And I knew that, and I guess the other difference is as well, I knew that by taking a rest that afternoon, it wasn't going to help me. It wasn't going to ease my anxiety. It wasn't going to make my day better. In fact, I knew that by skipping out on interval training that afternoon, I was probably going to feel worse. I was probably going to feel disappointed. I was probably going to just sit on the couch like anxiously. I was not actually going to rest. It wasn't going to be an authentic self care evening anyway. Perhaps if I'd had some plans in place to authentically manage my self care that afternoon, maybe that would have been different. But it wasn't. It was a panic related, stress related decision that wasn't authentic. So I pushed myself to go. I was running late. I got there. Everyone had already taken off on their warm up run. And I almost gave up at that point as well. Just like, oh, they've already gone without me, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I thought, no, just take the shortcut because they give you like a GPS pin of where they're going to end up. And my buddy in the group also sent me a GPS pin of where they were. So I just took a shortcut and I found them where they were and just started the intervals. The thing is, every time I've ever done that interval training, and I know this, is I've never regretted it once I've done it. Once I've done it, I never feel like I wish I hadn't done that. Not a single time. And that day was no different. another kind of magic thing happened where I don't know, it's just this funny thing of if you're paying attention, life has a way of nudging you and letting you know that you've made the right decision, that you've made a good decision. And that day, that certainly happened. There was one of the wonderful trainers there. She ran past me, and this is the other thing too. And I think I've mentioned this on another video. Is I am the slowest person in the group. I am definitely, and not because I suck or anything. That's not a criticism of myself. It's just I am running with like elite athletes. Like they are fantastic. They've been running for a really long time. They're highly experienced, and I'm just the least experienced in the group. You know, I haven't been running my entire life like a lot of the members are. I started when I was 33. You know, that was just 3 years ago, and I've still got a long ways to go, and that's okay. But it can be intimidating. Oh, we've got a friend. This is Snoopy, by the way, if you haven't met him before. So yeah, I was getting a bit in my head about that as well. You know, when you're already like not in a great mood, and then you have to throw on like this extra bit of resilience of dealing with a bit of insecurity around not being the fastest and in fact being the slowest in the group. But then something magic happened where one of the trainers ran past me, as she would, because she's fantastic and she's very quick. And she said to me, because we were doing laps where you run the lap and then to finish off the lap, you walk the last bit as your recovery. So we never actually stop. You're just running the whole time. And as she was like sort of slow jogging past me during that recovery section, she was like, I'm always really glad when you come to training. You always bring this positive energy to the group. Something along those lines. I had the biggest grin on my face because it just was so reassuring to me that I'd made the right decision by going there that day. I would have never had that lovely chat with her, and I never would have realized something really powerful, which is that we all have our own place in the group, and it doesn't have to be, I guess this is the bonus extra life lesson today, is that my purpose in the group isn't to be the fastest, but as it turns out, I'm a valued member of that group for an entirely different reason. A reason that I didn't even know is that apparently I'm a bit of a positive energy, and I and people enjoy that. People seem to be having some sort of benefit from that. I certainly benefit from being around them, but I'd never really considered the fact that maybe they benefit a little bit from having me around as well. So imagine if I had allowed myself to, if I'd allowed myself to talk myself out of going, I would have never had that magic moment, and I never would have learned that. And then after that, we finished off the intervals, and then I had the most wonderful chat with my new friend, and I would have missed out on that chat too. I would have missed out the opportunity to continue to foster this new friendship if I'd not gone to the group as well. So it's just, we never know the opportunities that we might miss out on if we don't just push ourselves that little bit in that really needed moment. So that's essentially what I learned this week, is that it's so important to weigh it up sometimes and go, is this a self-care moment or is this a self-destruction moment? Really weigh it up. And then and for me, I guess it was like, to err on the side of caution, I'm just going to push myself to go and see what happens. And it was absolutely to my benefit. I hope you've enjoyed that. I wonder if that resonates with you. I wonder if you've experienced that too, where you were at a crossroads of self-care versus self-destruction, and which path did you take and how did you feel about that? I'd love to hear about it. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next week.